Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Um, Today, what I like to talk about are retrograde elements, some kind of movement so that a hand will start in one place and then move and then go back to its original setting. That's what a retrograde is. Here's a Maurice Lacroix triple retrograde. Uh, at 12 o'clock, there's a little dip like that, a little curve that has a 24-hour second time zone. And so each movement of those is through from 000 to 2400, midnight. On the right side of over by the crown is a day of the week. So it'll go through the day of the week and then back, starting with Sunday and then going up to Monday and then back to Sunday and up again. And then finally at the bottom, there's a hand date, and it goes around into the 31 days and then back again. Some watches have a what I'll call a winding retrograde. The most common type is a power reserve indicator. So you start with your power reserve indicator up here that goes down, then you wind it, and then it goes back up again. So a lot of different kinds of retrograde. What I want to do today is to take a look at some different kinds of retrogrades, and starting with some very affordable ones and going up to some fabulous ones. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, by the way, too, this Maurice Lacroix, I think the MSRP, I don't know, this is around 5,000 Swiss francs. So it's sort of a medium level price-wise. Now, here are a couple that I found on eBay. The one to the left is $748 on eBay. It's a Seiko Presage Triple Retrograde. It too has 3 retrogrades. Along the right, you can see the day of the week. On the bottom is the time and the date. And then over to the left side is that you have a power reserve indicator. On the right side, you have a Frederick Constant one. It's called the High Life Heartbeat Retrograde. And at the bottom, you can see the retrograde. They have retrograde seconds at the bottom, and so it goes over and then back for a minute for your second counters. Now, another guy who did a lot of stuff with retrogrades is Gerald Genta. Here's one. This is a very simple one. It's a jumping hour, and then there's an arc on the sort of the top half of the watch with a mother of pearl dial, which makes it sort of interesting. And it goes from 0 to 60 and back again. It's sort of a very economical way to use the real estate that you have on your dial. And down below is a Bulgari Soterio retro date. Again, you'll see that a lot because you see a hand date with a little subdial like that, but using about half that space with an arc, you can do the same thing. Neither one of these is very expensive. On the Bulgari and the Gerald Genta they're both under $3,000. Gerald Genta is $2,847. And again, these are asking prices. Anybody who doesn't suggest another price pays full price. Okay, now here's another Gerald Genta, and it's sort of interesting. He liked to do a lot of things with them. This particular one, a very colorful one, is called the Gerald Genta Gefia Bi-Retro Safari. Now the Bi-Retro, they've got like these can tops, the pull top type of hands. The one along the top is for the hours, that's one retrograde, and then the one on the bottom is for the date. the hour is a jumping hour in the middle. Now, what happened is that Gerald Genta went to work for Bulgari for a little while, and he took a lot of the same types of styles with him. The Gerald Genta ones, this particular one, the Safari starts at 54.95, and then the Bulgari starts at 6,400. These are the prices vary all over the place, and like I said, if you see something you like it for a retrograde, you want to get it. The asking price is what they ask for. You're asking for your price. Don't forget that. Okay. Now, one of the more interesting retrogrades, and one of the more interesting guys who's one of the top watchmaker, is Paul Gerber. Paul Gerber, probably most people, if they know of him at all, know that he has this triple rotor system that he puts in, and on the back you can see these 3 golden whirligigs that do the winding. Very interesting stuff. Here he has what he calls it a retro twin. And there are, at the bottom, you have 60 minutes, and then at the top. Now, how this is to be used, I'm not sure. It's a very interesting watch. On eBay, it's $21,000, which is a lot. And but really interesting. They indicate it's very rare. They're right. That is very rare, and I'm not sure at all why you would have 2-minute hands. Having 2-hour hands, you can see you can have for 2 different time zones, but 2 different sets of minute hands. Maybe there's something where they have half-hour offsets, like in India, and one can be sort of on what we'll call the GMT time or Zulu time or the universal time minute-wise, and then the other one would be set at the half hour. Honest to goodness, I'm really not sure. It's a very interesting thing. Unless those are 60 seconds at the bottom, then that would make a lot more sense. But $21,000 is a lot for that. By the way, the one at the top left is one I'm wearing right now. This is a Daniel Roth, a Premier Retro. This watch has the hours are very unusual. If you look at it, the arc, where instead of having the hours go all the way around, they start at 6 and they go up to through 12, and then they're back to 6. And as soon as the hour hand hits 6, it goes back to the first 6. It's a lot of fun. On the other hand, the minutes on this thing are just regular minute hands that goes around like that. Both of these watches are very interesting ways of displaying time, and also using this space you have in the dial. Also, too, Daniel Roth is well known for his double ellipse style of cases. Now, going into sort of higher prices, the one on the left is anyone looking to move into high horology. Here is a great way to do it. Harry Winston, before Harry Winston was bought by Swatch, for many years they simply hire these top watchmakers to make watches for them. And both Roger Dubuis and Jean-Marc Viderec work for him. Now, the one on the left, the retrograde over at 9 o'clock, or sort of the arc starts at 9 o'clock. This is done by Jean-Marc Viderec. The important thing about this is that these are relatively affordable, and they're usually this is in white gold like this one, or in yellow gold. And here you have something by a watch that is more affordable. I'm using affordable in air quotes because they're only relatively affordable relative to the very high prices of equivalent watches. Now, the one on the right is Roger Dubuis Sympathy, and you can tell by the shape of this unusual shape of that. That thing has Retrograde's day of the week on the left side, and on the right side it has the month, the dates. Anyway, these are going more toward the higher end. Now, here, this is a project I've been involved in with Larique, making a watch called Arizulu, and in getting it made, the first thing we had to do was working with Agenor to have them make a movement for us. And they're very good with retrogrades. We learned a lot about it. I don't know if how well you can see it, but there are two what are called snail cams, and they look something like a snail. And the way retrogrades work is that the snail turns, and there's a little tooth. Those two blue arms that you see there are at the end of each one where the snail cam is a tooth. And as the snail cam moves, the tooth follows the side of it, and then where it turns, it goes down, and that's where the retrograde comes from. Now, there are two different kinds on this watch. On the left side, you can see the watch, and at the bottom you have the retrograde seconds, and they're on a 30 seconds, so they'll go back and forth a minute. First 30 seconds, then it goes back, and then the second 30 seconds. In the middle, there is what we call the Zulu hand. Zulu, by the way, is for Zulu times, the GMT. Zulu was the term that was used at one time for zero, part of the alphabet that they used at the time. I think they quit using Zulu and now use zebra or something like that for the letter Z, but Zulu sort of stuck. And in all flights right now, it's Zulu time. So if you want to fly, no matter where you are, they'll give it to you in what they call Zulu time, which is GMT time. And so that's what the sort of you can see the middle ring. It's an incomplete arc or incomplete circle. It's sort of a horseshoe shape, and that follows the second time zone, which is the Zulu time. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's the green snail cam over on the far right. It goes around every 24 hours and then down, and then the old retrograde hand goes back again. The airplane and all that stuff it's to represent the early days of air sports, and then the Zulu hand is more modern that they use in all of the times that they have. So there's a lot you can do with it to express different eras and different elements of whatever you're timing. As a sports watch, this would be timing air races and things like that. Now, this next one, a friend showed me. They were supposed to make, I think, 28 of these, and they only made like a dozen or so. Really interesting watch. It's a Roger Dubuis Sympathy 3 Retrograde. If you see one of those, especially if you see one at a good price, get in touch with me and I'll take care of it for you. These are very rare watches. They're wonderful ones. They have a caliber called 5799, and Roger Dubuis has two calibers. One's called RD99, the other one's RD57, and I think uses elements of both of these. This is based on more of estimation than anything else, because I happen to know that one uses a double retrograde, and so here you have a triple one, and I think they use elements of both of those movements to make the 5799. Really an amazing watch. Again, I happen to like Roger Dubuis stuff a lot. Okay, now going to the higher end, Vacheron Constantin has this incredible, one of my favorite retrogrades is one that has they look like calipers that were used in, they'd use them to try to figure out where they were or to figure out how many miles it would be. They'd put that on a map and use calipers. And what Vacheron Constantin has done with a Mercator is this really cool watch with 60 minutes by one of the arms, and then the 12 hours times 2 with the other arm. This watch is just fantastic. One of my favorite watches anywhere. The one on the left is part of their more artistic kinds of watches. Both of these they're very expensive, I'll put it that way. The one on the left there was a whole series of watches for explorers and explorer ships and so forth. And the retrograde on that, you can see the minutes on the outside, and then in the middle there you can see a 12, that's the hour, and you have, it goes around, and the retrograde is, I think with the hours on the numbers, I'm not sure. They're very expensive. I couldn't even afford to try one out, but they're amazing things that have been done with retrograde on that. Now the final one has two interesting ones. First one I happen to have. This was has an interesting history to it. This is a Van Cleef & Arpels, Pierre Arpels RDC at Air Dayer. The thing about this watch, as far as retrogrades are concerned, is that originally, when Pierre Arpels first made what he called the gentleman's watch, this was in 1949, it was just a very simple time-only watch, and he felt that a gentleman shouldn't have too much information. That be handled by assistants, I think, but just the basic time he felt was important. Well, I think it was around 2013 or so, Van Cleef & Arpels said, we better get with it. You know, the original one was hand wound, and so I thought, well, let's get an automatic and give it 2 time zones, and because people travel through different time zones all the time. And so what they said to do is that they hired Agenor to fix it for them and to make a new one, because they had worked, Agenor and Van Cleef & Arpels for years, had a relationship, and a whole bunch of Grand Prix awards were because of Agenor movements. Well, so what Agenor did, they told Agenor, they said, well, look, we want to have this the movement we've always been using. And they took a look at it, and they said, well, all we want you to do is just make it a dual time and automatic. Well, they said that would be almost impossible. I mean, the other part was to make it nice and thin and put all of their stuff in there. So what they told them, they said, look, here's what we can do. We'll use these 2 discs for 2 jumping hours, and then we'll have a retrograde over on one side for the minutes. And that way, all of the information would be in a very compact area, but it wouldn't be crowded. It would just sort of, I think it's a 42 millimeter. It's a good size watch. But the Piaget movement that they had been using, wasn't anything wrong with it. It just couldn't accommodate all these things. And so that's why they bring in things like retrograde for solving this kind of problem. In 2021, the Bulgari Octo Finissimo won the grand prize of the Grand Prix d'Horloge de Genève. That is not an easy award to win. I think Audemars Piguet had won more awards than anybody else at the Grand Prix, but it took them, I think, 20 years before they won their first grand prize. Bulgaria, on the other hand, won it with this one, and it has two very interesting retrogrades. Just up at the top, they have the 31 day for dates, but at the bottom, they have one for the different, I don't know what you'd call it, where you have every 4 years you have a leap year. And so they have that set up as 1, 2, 3, L for a leap, and then back to one again. So a couple ways of using, lots of ways to have retrogrades. It's a very cool thing to have one in your collection, I think, as a part of one. It's something you might enjoy. Let me know what you think, and this is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. And like I said, please, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Take care.